So you're very welcome to the local enterprise office, Kildare lunchtime chat with Blaise Brosnan. At this point, I'll turn you over to Jackie McNabb, who will manage all of the ceremonies today. So over to you, Jackie.
Thank you very much, Nancy, and good afternoon to day 3 of Enterprise Week. For many of ye, our special guest today will be no stranger. And for those that haven't had the absolute pleasure to work with and meet Blaise Brosnan, Blaise himself has a unique blend of practical and management experience gained over 25 years. And we've been working with him to ensure that the businesses in County Kildare, through our management development programme, have been thriving through his intervention and words of wisdom. He is a senior specialist within the Management Resource Institute, and he works with boards and senior management to stand back from their business and formulate and agree their future strategic repositioning. And that future repositioning and strategic forward thinking is really what we want to focus on, and Blaise would like to talk about today. If you haven't already looked at or received a copy or purchased a copy, there is still plenty of time over the next few weeks to do some reading. You should seek out one of Blaise's books. You know, this book, You Are the Limiting Factor, Jack and I Dare You are just 3. And they capture loads of insights and wisdoms and are really easy reads, but so practical. So I'd urge you and to have a look and read. Blaise, you know, when we spoke about booking you today, you were very much engaged with the notion of congratulating people and acknowledging that it has been a tough road, but you're at the point of saying to people, come on now, where to from here for your business, and to force people to perhaps look ahead.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. Good afternoon, everybody. I was just looking around the virtual table here. I would know quite a few, but there's some I don't know. And as Jackie said there, I think she said anyway that introduced me as a Cayman. I'm a Cayman living in Wexford for probably 40 years, but still a Cayman. So that's where we are. Just one sec. Okay, what I want to do today is I want you to, I suppose, take something worthwhile away. You're investing an hour of your lunch break to come onto the program here. And like all good business people, they always look for a return back on their investment. So just look at the next hour or so as an investment in yourself and in your business going forward, and hopefully take away some learning point that you'll try and do something with back home. So I'll go ahead, Jackie, will I?
Absolutely, and I've already put a little note in the chat box, Blaise, that throughout your conversation, that people might pose comments or questions they might have, and where appropriate, I'll feed them into you. And I know you're really keen to keep it interactive and lively.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I'll maybe do a bit of a presentation for maybe 15 or 20 minutes or so, and we'll allocate the rest of the time to questions and answers, because as Jackie said, I prefer to be answering your questions, the issues that are really relevant to you going forward, than just me trying to anticipate what those might be. So I'll share screen with you for just a formal bit of the presentation. And Jackie, just cut in on me anytime you want and ask me questions, and I'll try and answer them, okay?
Okay, the floor is all yours, Blaise.
Okay, thanks very much, yeah. So, can you, sorry.
Yeah, perfect. We can see the Blaise.
Yeah. Okay, the heading I have there really, well, 2 things. First of all, I think we should all congratulate ourselves in getting this far. You know, I remember the 16th of March, last year coming back from a meeting in Tipperary. And little did I realize that day that would be the last time I'd be really in front of a client for months and months. And if anybody had said to me, you know, you'll have to run the business differently going forward, and how will business people get through it? And there's at least a year out ahead. I don't think any of us could anticipate that we'd have done as well as we have. Now, I'm very conscious that people around the table here today, that some people have done quite well during the COVID period because of their positioning and the game they're in. Others might be in lockdown, but we are where we are, and it's what we do from now on in, I think, is what's important. Okay, my own background, formal background, I suppose, I come from a business background, of course, but my formal kind of qualifications is economics, even though I never practiced as an economist. But one of the things I brought from kind of that kind of thinking was looking at the various trends and cycles, business cycles and that over the years. And I've been studying cycles now for maybe cycles since 1929. I went around in 29, but I've studied cycles from that period on. And one of the things that really strikes me is that all economic cycles tend to have the same shape, you know, and they tend to go in cycles because every peak is followed by a trough, and every trough is followed by a peak. And what I'm saying to all of us here today is that the tide will turn. And I think we have to make the assumption in our business that there's good times ahead. Now, when they'll kick in, who knows? But at least, as far as I'm concerned, we're in a better position today than we were 6 months ago, or even 3 months ago. And the reason I say that is at least there's a race on now between the virus and the vaccine. 6 months ago, there was no race. Okay, it's going to be a marathon, it's not a sprint, but at least when you have a race on, you're going to finish up with a winner at the end, at the tape. And it behoves us, I think, as business people to kind of start to focus in and make the assumption that there is life after this. And we have to decide, you know, how do we want to kind of strategically position our business going forward, what shape that business should be, what business model we want to develop in order to optimize that. So that's really where I'm going. And, you know, any of you that are lucky enough to be near the sea at the moment, if you go down to the strand, if, you know, and watch it long enough, the tide comes in, but the tide goes out as well. And I believe the same thing happens economically. Many of you will have come across this quotation of Warren Buffett, but like a lot of quotations, we tend to think, that's very interesting, and we move on. But I think if you reflect on that quotation and the message from that quotation, and see and challenge yourself and say, okay, what's the message for me in my business from that quotation? And basically what he's saying is, be careful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. Now, if you look at the economy and the whole kind of environment out there at the moment, particularly driven by the media, it's all about fear. And there's, you know, my strong advice to all of you around the table here today, well, for God's sake, turn off the news. You know, once a day is enough to listen to the news. If you allow yourself to be exposed to the negative commentary and re-commentary and re-commentary all the time with all the badness, it will actually do your head in. Now, the majority of people will allow themselves to be influenced by it, but the minority, and this is where the 80-20 kind of thinking comes in, can you be the one to get greedy and commercially greedy now while everybody else is fearful? And I know lots of clients out there, and there's some of them around the table here today, who are taking a very kind of practical but positive view about the journey out ahead. And not alone are they doing that, but they're also putting in place action points and appropriate investment, if that's appropriate, in order to do that going forward. So the challenge for us, but I believe the opportunity for us as well, is you know, to go against the trend. I remember when I was growing up in Kerry, way back, my mother, she was a very good businesswoman, and she used to say to us when we were growing up, if all the neighbours are walking in one direction, go the opposite way. Now, at the time, I had no idea what that meant. But as I got more involved in business back over the years, she was dead right. And she was thinking like that, you know. So we have to be very careful of this herd mentality in relation to it. So the advice is, if all your neighbours are going and thinking in a particular way, my advice to you is stand out from that and plot your own route. We have a quote here, a sign up here in the office, and it's up here for a long time, and I really tend to live by it. And the quotation says, in the absence of a great dream, pettiness prevails. And I think if you look at that from in relation to your own business, what are you trying to achieve in your business going forward? And I believe you have to have kind of 3 time frames and an action plan for each of those time frames. One is the immediate, where we are at the moment. One will be what I call the twilight zone post the COVID exit for that kind of 18 months, and then the more strategic long term. And if you're serious about your business, which I know you are, you wouldn't be here otherwise, I think that you need to take out and have a different action plan for each of those 3 areas. And we'll look at some of the variables of that as we go along. Some of you will have seen this slide before, anyone that have kind of tuned into some of the other presentations I've made. And we tend and look at business and we say, oh, business so-and-so is very successful. But the reality is, and again, I'm around a long time now in relation to business, I've never yet seen a business which had a straight line success rate. It's the line, the zigzag line on the right-hand side is far more appropriate, I think, to describe the journey that business people and businesses come through. I'm involved in a number of businesses, but one of the businesses, well-known, very successful business, but I know on at least 3 occasions in the last 20 years where that business was within about 2 weeks of going bust. And if I was to draw the line of the progress of that business going forward, it would be very much like the second graph there rather than the first. We tend to tell the stories about our business based on straight line success, but it isn't. And the challenge, I think, but also the opportunity, I think, for us as owner managers of our own business is, can we work our way through the difficult periods? And you know, the last 12 months for many has been one of those periods. And one of the messages, the real messages that I kind of picked up when we came in from the Celtic Tiger period into the recession. And when I looked at various businesses and that whole transition period, a very strong message came across. And that strong message was that the good guys, and when I'm talking about guys now, ladies, I'm talking about the heads of business, basically, right? The good guys and those that tended to succeed during the recession were those that came in at the end of the Celtic Tiger with strong balance sheets. And why had they strong balance sheets? Because they ran their business commercially well in good times. And you really do need, when you get the opportunity, to build reserves into your balance sheet, because they're the reserves that you'll need in order to take you through some difficult periods, as every business will experience along the way. And we'll look at some of the variables that might work into that. One of the, again, strong learning points I would try and get across to you is, don't judge yourself based on how busy you are. Busy per se is no formula for business success. If hard work, long hours, and sweat was the formula for business success, there'd be a lot more successful business out there. to be successful in business and to be commercially more successful in business going forward, you have to be street wise. You need to know how to play the game. You need to know what game you're in. And from once we know what game we're in our business, by definition, we know what game we shouldn't be in. I had a call yesterday, with a business person, and I would consider he's a real entrepreneur, okay? And he's been relatively successful, and his business has been relatively successful over the years. But the biggest problem he's a client of ours, and the biggest kind of input I suppose I have made to him along the way is I have tried to get him not to follow too many opportunities. Yesterday, he had about 10 options that he could look at. None of us are capable as of following 10 options. And what we need to do is kind of look at the 80-20 kind of concept, and out of those 10 options, decide, is there 2 worthwhile? And forget about the rest, I put them in cold storage. And we finished up anyway after a big argument and discussion that he's going to allocate his resources to 1. And when he has that bedded down, then he'll go and do the second one. And it's a mistake a lot of people do. We try to do too many things. We're fighting too many battles at the one time, all in different directions. Most of us, I think, came into business, and particularly owner managers. Most of you around the table today came into business because you were good at something. You are a good brickie, or you're a good IT person, or you're a good engineer, or whatever it was, right? I consider that the vocational thing of what we're doing. And we're all pretty good at that. But there's quite a difference between being good at the vocational aspect of your business and being a good business person. And we find that over the years that the biggest kind of limiting factor often with business people is not the vocational aspect, but the business, the commercial side of it. Don't be afraid to make money, lads. You have to build your balance sheet during good times. And the question you have to keep asking yourself all the time in relation to your business, you have to stand back and say, is what you're doing at the moment leading to an invoice? And I'm assuming you'll get paid the invoice. That'll be for another day. But, you know, and what are the variables that impact on that? A lot of our decisions are based on kind of our view of the world, I suppose. And the question is, you know, is our view going forward, is it bearish or is it bullish? And if you take the stock market or take any market there, right, you'll get a group of people, and half of them will take one view and half of them will take the other view. That's how markets work. My own view of it, for what it's worth, is that post this event, I think we're in for very good times. And my reasoning for that is, I think there's pent up demand. I think there's pent up money. If you look at the deposits in the Irish Bank at the moment, on the people like ourselves, there's about 20 billion more on deposit today than there was this day 12 months. Now that money will come out. And that money, the majority of that money will be spent post when people get back out of this COVID thing, when the vaccine starts to beat the virus. And the question for us as business people is, can you get your share of that bite? What do you need to be doing now in order to be fitter to play that commercial game that's on the way at us, right? Some of you might be kind of surprised with the result of this survey, you know, because I often come across people and they're always looking for a kind of a eureka moment, and they're always looking for that eureka kind of ID in order to start the business. You don't need a eureka moment. Like if you look at it out there, the majority of businesses are a variation of some other businesses out there. And the critical issues in order to be successful going forward, coming out on top is timing. You know the old saying, be not the first in who the newest tried, nor yet the last to lay the old aside. So timing is fierce important. We are where we are. We're walking into the future. Now, what is the timing? Can you get the timing of your intervention, or your proposition, or the variation of your proposition going forward? Can you get the timing of that a little bit better than Joe Soap down the road? The resources around you, the team around you. The idea is only the third most important thing in relation to business success going forward. Obviously, the business model that you develop. In other words, what kind of a model or what kind of a formula are you coming up with in order to be commercially successful going forward? You know, and there's various formulas out there. There is the kind of the traditional, what we call Capex formula, and then there's the opposite to that, which is the recurring income formula. And there's variations in between those two extremes. I have a great preference myself for the recurring income model, if that's possible for you. Again, and this kind of ties in with timing. What the wise person does at the beginning, the fool does at the end. And that's a quotation, right? And again, if you look at the Celtic Tiger period, who were the people that mostly got caught in the Celtic Tiger? There were those who were late in. The smart guys were already moving on. And the very same thing happens when we're coming out of a recession as when we're going in. The smart guys are already moving, lads. I had a call there not so long ago from somebody else in the pub trade. And, you know, we know the pubs are closed. And when I saw his name coming up, the first thought that hit me, this is going to be a cross-shawling negative kind of call. But it wasn't. I know the guy quite pretty well. I know his business. He has 4 or 5 pubs. And I called him John. I said, John, how's it going? He said, this is great here. I said, why? He says, this will give me the opportunity of buying another 3 or 4. One guy wanted to expand, another guy wanted to get out. And that's how markets work, lads. And you have to decide which side of that fence are you going to be going forward. Now, some of you will have come across this model of Steve Covey before, right? And I think it's very apt for where we are at the moment, right? And he talks about 3 circles of influence. The inner circle, the green circle there, is the circle of control. They're the variables we have some control over in relation to our business. The second yellow line there is what he calls the circle of influence. We might be able to influence some of those variables, and that's okay. And the third one is what he calls the circle of concern. There are things that we are concerned about, but we can do feck all about. Now, just think of yourself today or yesterday. Where was most of your mind and most of your actions in relation to your business yesterday? Were you focusing on the green, which is the circle of control? Were you involved in things that you could actually control? Were you more involved, and was your mind thinking in terms of things you might be able to influence? Or were you like the majority of people out there at the moment who are so hot and bothered about things of concern, which is the macro whole COVID situation and all the things that are going on out there, which we can do feck all about? But what are the smart guys doing? What are the better business guys doing? They're focusing in on the areas they can control within their business, and they're focusing on the areas that they might have some influence on. But they're not getting too hot and bothered about stuff they have no control over. And it's a strong, strong message I want to get across to you, is can we focus in on the variables you have some control over? Okay, and we'll have a look at what some of those variables are, right? First of all, you need to understand the game you're in, or the game you want to be in going forward. If we don't understand the game we're in, or the game we want to be in going forward, then we're not going to make too much progress. We have to make judgment calls. And judgment calls in relation both to the timing coming to the market, with the way that we're coming to the market, with whatever proposition we have, Make a judgment call maybe in relation to knocking off something you're currently doing. And these judgment calls will eventually wash out into the strength of your balance sheet. We also have to have courage. You know, it takes courage to make an investment both on yourself and in your business going forward. But what's the thing that keeps us back or holds us back is fear. Do you know that 92% of the things we worry about never happen? They certainly never happen the way we think they're going to happen. But we get so hot and bothered that, and I come across it all the time, people, they are driven by fear. They're stopped by fear. But entrepreneurs, people that tend to be more successful in business, they overcome that fear thing. And if you break fear down into its component parts, it's false evidence appearing real. We have to take action. Nothing happens in our business without action. We can pontificate about things forever, but the only thing you can invoice in your business is an output. And I would strongly advise all of you to focus in on and run your business based, and also judge yourself based on measured output. It's the only thing we can invoice. And if you want to make a lodgement to the bank, it's based on money in, and we'll talk about cash flow a small bit. It's based on money in. Where does money come in from? Through your invoice. What's on your invoice? It's an output. The market doesn't pay you or any of us for being busy. The market doesn't care how busy we are. The only thing that the market can pay us for is an output. So be aware of that. That's the output bit of it. And the last variable there is monitoring. And one of the most important decisions you'll ever make in relation to your business is to decide, what do you measure? Most of the measurement that I see in SME type of business out there, it's all about compliance. It's all about satisfying the revenue. I see very little management measurement per se. If there is, it's too late, it's not accurate enough, it's too generic, it's not specific enough. You could run your business, and you know, some of the business we're involved in, you could run a business based on 3 or 4 KPIs, provided they're the right ones. And the question you need to ask yourself, and the question you need to answer going forward, what are the drivers in your business going forward? And how will you know whether you're making progress on those or not? And you need to build some KPIs around those drivers, because that's where the holy grail is, right? Again, just talking about capital, and I know I'm doing another podcast tomorrow, and it's more about cash flow and working capital and things like that, right? But in order to get a project going or do something new, you know, it takes a big effort in order to get a plane off the ground. It takes a lot of working capital to get a new project off the ground. So you have to look at projects and say, can you break them down into phase 1, 2, and 3? Or, you know, how are you going to finance them? And a lot of financing in small business is based on whatever reserves are built up. And that's why it's so important to build up reserves going forward. So the 3 C's in relation to my advice to you going forward would be confidence in yourself. You are both the limiting factor in your business, but you're also the most important factor in your business. And again, Jackie mentioned some of the books I wrote there are published, but the last one I published, the byline on that book, on the cover of it, is very, very important. And what's that byline? The byline is, you have to win the debate in your own head first before you can win it on the ground. If we can convince ourselves, we can win that debate in our head about the game we're going to play going forward and how we're going to win in that game, then we're never going to win it on the ground. And one of the things I'd say here is, you don't need to be Einstein to be successful in business. There's lots of very ordinary people out there, lads, who are quite successful and running very successful business. It's nothing to do with formal education. It's nothing to do with academic kind of IQ or whatever, right? You just need to be a bit streetwise. You need to know how the game is played. And I would say also to you, you need to have a bit of a devil in you in order to be able to trade. Anyone that can trade will never go hungry. Believe me. The second one is working capital, and competitiveness obviously is very important. Okay, so we're always in a journey of progress, really, or change, right? Change is difficult. And we find this particularly with family business and things like that, excuse me, and that, you know, that they get into a particular way of doing things, and it's very hard to get them away from that, right? And I think it's nicely summarized here by Yes Minister, Sir Humphreys, saying to his minister, "We have to try something new, Minister." And the minister's reply is, "Yes, but not something for the first time." Now, that's fine for them because they're on somebody else's payroll. But that's not fine for us because the majority of people around the table here today are on your own payroll. The market is our paymaster. And we need, if the mood of the market is changing, as it will, and continues to do it, then we need to synchronize our business model and the output of our business model with that. If not, over time, you'll get mismatched very easily. And a lot of it depends on how you present yourself. Now, it's easier to present a product type of company, maybe to get the message across, than a service type of business, right? But a variation, a kind of presentation can, I think, achieve an awful lot. So if you look at kind of trying to get repeatability into your business model, so instead of offering tax advice, what you offer is, "I'll fix your taxes." Why is that important? It's the same thing, but expressed differently. Why, if somebody has a tax problem, they want them fixed. They don't want tax advice, they want them fixed. That's where the pain is. And if your proposition to the market hits the pain better than somebody else's proposition, then you're going to win. Another one there is preparing projections. A lot of people talk about that financially instead of getting the necessary finance. If the client, what does the client want? They want the finance. They don't necessarily want the projections. The projections is a tool that's required in order to satisfy somebody to give you the finance. But the pain they're trying to solve is like getting finance. The same way somebody puts themselves out there, "I'm a plumber." But a smarter guy would put himself out as, "I'll repair your water leak." Where's the pain? The pain is the water leak. So you look at your own proposition to the market and look at it from the customer's perspective. Do the customer know what you're about? Do the customer know, or do you know what the customer's pain is? And are you synchronizing your proposition more smoothly in to satisfy that pain than Joe Soap down the road? And sometimes we look at somebody else in our space and we say, they're successful and we can't fathom out why they're successful. And we finish up then with the conclusion, they were very lucky, or they had rich parents, or they had this, or that. That's all too simplistic, lads, in my view. Michael Porter talks about differentiation, or how can you differentiate yourself away from the pack? And the way to differentiate ourselves away from the pack and to be noticed is to, if you understand the pain points of your customer, your smooth customer, your best customers, if you understand their pain points a bit different and propose your proposition more precisely against their pain barrier, that can be your differentiating factor. You mightn't be doing much different to Joe Soap down the road, but you're perceived to be different. And if you have that difference, then you have to have stiffer pricing to support that difference. You know, pricing is an area where people are very, I think, it's poorly done generally, and people are driven by fear. And I'll say this to all of you around the table here today. If price is the only perceived advantage that you have in your market space, you're very unlikely to ever create wealth for yourself. Now, that's a big statement. So you, as the owner manager of your business, you have to look at your own proposition to your market and say, okay, how can I base my advantage on something other than price? And why is that important? Because if price is your only advantage in the market, all somebody else has to do is just cut your price and they'll get that market. We need to have far stronger kind of linkages into the market, things that are not easily copied or displaced. And you look around you at the people in your space, in your niche of the market, and I guarantee you, irrespective of the market kind of trends out there, that there's a third of those operators doing very well, there's a third hanging in there, and there's a third on the way out. Now, what's the difference? The difference, lads, is us. We are that, we're the leader of the pack. So we're both the limiting factor and we're the most important factor in relation to our business. I'll just pick up a couple of learning points from some of the books there, because there's lots of them in there. But if you want to be, if you want a different output, then you must make a different input. In other words, I'm sure you all have ambitions and have hope that you'll have a better economic output going forward. That's a wish. That's not a plan. That's a wish. Now, if you want to make that reality, you have to do something at the input side of your business. And what's the most important inputter in your business? It's you. It's us. The second one there is lukewarm is displeasing to the palate. Yeah, you know, lukewarm people, they're not noticed. You have to stand out. You have to be noticed for the right reasons, whatever they are. And you'll know that within your own situation. Third one there, I think, is very important, and we come across this quite a bit. Are you running away from something, or are you running towards something? I meet a lot of people and they're running away from things. It's fantastic to meet somebody that's running towards something. So what are you doing in your business? What are you running towards? What's that big vision you have for your business going forward? What's your plan for the immediate situation? What's the plan for the twilight period, post-COVID? And what's the big vision you have going forward? And what's your action plans in relation to that? If you're perceived to be going somewhere, you'll get lots of backers. But if you're perceived just to be treading water, lads, you won't get backers. It's as simple as that. We rise to the level of our own or others' expectations of us. Again, what expectations have you of yourself going forward? What expectations have you put out there in the public domain that you have to live up towards? It feels important to put stretchy, not too stretchy, but so stretchy expectations out there for us, because that's what makes us perform. And the last one there, I think, which is very important, be unsatisfied with being dissatisfied. Now you might say, what in the hell does all that mean? You actually have to become more comfortable at doing uncomfortable things. And the day you're not doing something uncomfortable in your business is a poor day, in my view. You're doing nothing. You haven't taken on any issue whatsoever that's uncomfortable if you go through a day or a week or a month in a comfortable situation in your business. Comfort in a business is the first sign of deterioration in that business. And as I'm talking to you here, there's a guy comes into my head here, and he's our best client and have been for over 30 years. This guy is a multimillionaire now, and his business, very fantastic business. But I remember him when he was starting back about 30 years ago. But that guy today is as driven today as he was the first day I met him. And it's not about money. And we often talk about it because I'm very kind of interested in the way that he thinks and things like that. But he always has another mountain to climb. Now, what mountain do you want to climb? Commercial mountain do you want to climb going forward? Have you articulated it? Have you thought it through? Have you put an action plan in place for it? Is it going to be easy? Of course it won't be easy. But is it going to be worth it? I believe it is. Jackie, I'll just finish with one last slide, right?
Okay, Blaise.
This is the last challenge here. It kind of summarizes what I'm talking about. What is the one standout picture that people will remember you for? We're all going to pass through this life, lads. We're all on the way at different stages, but we will all pass through. Now, what legacy, what commercial legacy, business legacy do you want to leave behind you? And I'm not talking about money per se. I'm talking about what legacy, what achievement legacy, and what will you be known for? Very interesting question for us. And I think we should all kind of think about this a lot. What are we trying to do? Okay, Jackie, I could go on, but I won't.
Well, Blaise, you're going to stay with us for another while because
yeah,
people will want to engage with you further. And very salient thoughts there. You know, I'm particularly, you know, I'm working and listening to you for a quarter of a century, Blaise. But, you know, and still there are new things to hear today. In the absence of great dreams, pettiness prevails. And I think, you know, in terms of how I think about that with businesses is, you know, without having a goal that you know, set yourself with a timeline to set yourself and one that challenges you, you really just, it's all mediocre, isn't it? It's just existing.
Yeah. And I think you know, if we don't kind of stand for something, if we're not trying to achieve something, and I'll just focus in on the business side today, Jackie, right? You know, what are we trying to build? You know, what's that driver that's behind us? You know, it can be expressed lots of different ways, right? But that guy I was talking about a while ago, like he always has another mountain he wants to climb, basically commercially. No, he's not driven by money because he has all that. That's all well catered for years ago. But he's hungry to achieve something. And I know he'll be the same way to his deathbed. He'll go. No, we can't all be like him, but we can learn things from people like that. And that's why I tend to share stories, because they're all case histories in their own right. And, you know, if you look and you go, you know, I'm in out of business all the time. Well, before COVID, I was in out of business all the time. And, you know, you go into business and it's kind of plateauing. And small things become big issues, you know, and pettiness, this is where pettiness starts to manifest itself. Whereas if you go into a business and it's going somewhere and people are bought into that, but where does that start from, lads? That starts from us. We're the leaders of that pack. That's what leadership is about. You know, we don't have all the answers. Like there's nobody around the virtual table here today, and I'm including myself here. None of us are you know, we don't all have the answers.
No, absolutely.
We all have a certain skill base, and we all have, but also we all have a responsibility. Sorry, Jackie.
Yeah, no, and you know, I even say, you know, whether you own a business or you're employed, I say it at home, a mantra to my own two grown-up children, you know, to reflect on each day and to ask oneself, you know, did you make a difference? You know, what is it about today? What changed? What you learn? Otherwise, we're only passing through, you know, and a wasted day, if you like. And somebody that's not wasting any time. I have a question here from Michelle Kelly, Blaise.
Okay.
And Michelle is about to launch a new business. And our question, Blaise, is, does Blaise feel we should hold off launching until nearer the opening of the economy, or get started this minute? Obviously, with the business plan.
I would say stop this minute, because there's always a strong, steep learning curve to be gone through when you're starting a business or a new project, right? And she might as well use the time space between now and the opening up of the economy in order to try and maneuver her way through some of that steep learning curve. Okay, that'd be one thing I'd say to her. Second thing I'd say to her is that she should have some role model out there, you know, that might have been gone through a similar type of road before her, not necessarily in the same business, but a similar type of road, and kind of try and establish or see how did they go about it. And the third thing I'd say, which probably should have been the first thing I should have said, is they should contact the Leo office, your own office, Jackie, right? Because there's a lot of help in the Leo office between mentors and programs and things like that. That there's a lot of help today for people who seek it.
Well, I know Michelle is very wise, because Michelle has already emailed the local enterprise office, Blaise, since yesterday.
Very good.
And I'm hoping one of my team responded to her effectively, to line her up with a mentor to assist her on that journey.
But it's very important, Jackie, I think, for everyone, not just Michelle, but for everyone around the table here, to have a couple of role models that we use out there to help guide us through our journey. And you know, role models, I could talk a lot about role models, right? But sometimes you're as well never to meet your role model, because it's your perception of the role model that's important to you. You know, in generally, I would say never meet your role model, because you'll be disappointed if you do. Okay, but it's your perception of their journey and how they might travel that journey is what's important. And I think it's fabulous. Now, for some of you that are more established, you might go beyond that, and you'll have your role models, but you'll also have some kind of a business kind of mentor, or call him or her, whatever you like, right? Somebody that you can open, that's a safe environment for you, that's a challenging environment for you, and who'll debate the thing out with you. But there's no point in depending on somebody who has never been on the journey before you. You really need to have a relationship with somebody that has been down a similar type of road before you, because they then can be of great value to you.
Okay. Blaise, I know you're very familiar with Tara Lane and Tara's great company, Centerpiece Rosettes. And of course, Tara's company, a great client of ours, someone we love and very proud of her achievements, was hit probably one of the hardest in terms of a lot of her work relates to sporting events and very public events and the awards and so forth. And you know, she's a question that I'm sure many of the participants on this event today are asking. So let me phrase it as best I can. Tara says, Blaise, thank you. I know you touched on it, but can I ask a question re business owner fatigue? It's so hard to plan with not knowing what's happening from week to week. Tara is really trying to build stock, implement what I learned on the lean program. We've invested a lot on doing up the workshop, new machines, and have done very well. But it's still hard not knowing when our industry will start up again. And it's hard communicating to the team when I don't know what to tell them.
Yeah, it's difficult, and it's very true the way Tara is profiling the thing there. I can't say, nobody can say when this whole thing will, I can't give you a date, but because we have to make some assumptions about the future. and I know Tara and I know her business, and I'd say she's done all kind of, the three circles I had there, the circle of control. I think she has probably done that very well. She certainly is quite good in the second circle, which is the circle of influence. But I would advise her keep away from the third one, which is the circle of concern. And, there's nothing wrong, lads, with taking time out from your business rather than feeling guilty about being in the business every day and just redoing things or just being busy for the sake of being busy. Maybe Tara would be better to go off, and I know she's a horse there. Maybe go off and ride and take some fresh air or whatever, because she'll need to be fit mentally and every other way when the shows and all that kind of stuff will start again, as they will, and
Yeah.
that's why Jackie, I was making the point earlier on, that in good times, in good trading times, we need to build reserves into our balance sheet to take us through that,
And isn't that so true? And Tara won't mind me saying, but 12 months back, Tara overcame some incredible personal challenges and was incredibly busy. And 6 months prior to that, I mean, a conversation that Tara would have had and other entrepreneurs would have had with me was, oh my God, I'm so busy, I'm exhausted. Do you know?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And it's our inability to be comfortable with the not busy. And we all struggle with that. We all
I think it's the guilt more than the cash flow is the issue, really, right? In that period. But, at the end of the day, when I say we're, as the owner managers and Tara in her situation, is both the important factor, but also the limiting factor in the business, right? We need to look after ourselves as well as in relation to our health and, whatever else, because we need to be fit and our business needs to be very fit to exploit the opportunities when they open up, will start again, because that cycle will be mad in my view.
Okay. Blaise, Mark Richardson was listening tentatively, and he suggests that you mentioned, which you did, different business models, Capex and recurring.
Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit?
Yeah, a Capex model, I suppose, is just terms that I use, right? Capex model is for argument's sake, somebody selling a machine and maybe having a maintenance contract on that machine afterwards, right? But the customer owns the machine, okay? Whereas a recurring income type of model, a subscription model, there's various titles used with these things, is where somebody would put a piece of equipment into a client's premises or a piece of software, whatever it might be, right? They don't sell it. The client, the company always owns the equipment or the piece of software, the license or whatever, and they get paid on a monthly recurring basis. Okay, and from a cash flow point of view, that kind of model has a ferocious appetite for working capital, right? Because you're buying in. Let's assume they're buying in the equipment from somewhere. They put it into somebody's premises. They're not getting paid for it from the capital expenditure point of view. They're getting paid for it over a period of a year, maybe 2 years or whatever it might be, right? But if you can get over that initial cycle from a cash flow point of view, where it becomes a self-financing proposition, then you have a very predictable income coming in. And particularly if you can get the cycles from 1 year up to 2 years and eventually up to maybe 4 or 5 years. I know a company and you know a company, we both know a company, Jackie, right? Who operates this model, right? And even if they stop tomorrow morning, if they install nothing new from tomorrow morning on, they have a guaranteed income for the next 5 years.
Yeah, and it also is an income while they sleep, Blaise, which is even better.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely, and we talk about role models, and indeed that is one. And I know that you constantly reference reference the company. And I suppose the similarity is that that same entrepreneur has made his millions, but still is looking for the new and looking for the best achievement. Yeah. Look,
But I remember we talk about eureka moments in business, right? I remember the board meeting that decision was made to go from a Capex model to a recurring income model, right? Now we had done all the work and the projections and all that, right? But if you look at, if you were to take a eureka moment in that business or any business, that to me was the eureka moment. That's when that business started to become really valuable. That business worth 100 million today. And it's worth 100 million today because of that one decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
More than anything else.
Absolutely. Let me just try, we've 5 more minutes and I want to capture as many of the commentary. I'll just give a shout out to one gentleman in particular who asked, just want to say hi to Blaise, and that's Trevor Lynham. And the reason I pick him out, I know Trevor did the program with you, Lynham Paints, but Trevor also presented himself, Blaise, on the Lean program and did a super job for us yesterday. So thanks, Trevor. And anybody that still wants their house painted, contact Trevor there.
He's not only a good painter, but he's a good businessman.
Absolutely.
And they're two different things, lads. And Trevor would be a very good example of both.
Yeah. Linda Byrne, great advice. Thanks, Blaise. Feeling the same as Tara. And Nicola Kendi is advocating that we look at the services of Susanna Morrissey of OM Wellness, and we all need to mind ourselves as we do our business. And I suppose that's so true in what Blaise is advocating. Sonia Moore.
Sure.
Oh, we're gone off. Sonia Moore there, it's hard. And I know that Sonia Moore is working very hard because Sonia is making face masks, branded face masks at the moment, Blaise. And I had an email or text, I don't know which, it came up on my phone at 10 o'clock last night wanting to know, did I want to buy some? So Sonia was still working at 10 o'clock last night.
Yeah, well, that's what entrepreneurs sometimes have to do, yeah.
And I'm just going to finish. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss a question. Great advice, great advice. Thanks, Nicola. We can see all through this thread. We'll share the slides with Blaise's permission. And just to also say, guys, that the next program we're running with Blaise and the Management Institute is for businesses 3 years or older. And ideally, I know that Blaise is such a loyal following, but you really, you know, if you've done it this year, just skip a year. And Blaise would advocate that himself in order to get the best value out of your time. Isn't that what you'd be suggesting, Blaise?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And Jill O'Mara, who did your program, said, thanks for reminding her of the 3 circles. All right, she's feeling great now. So Blaise, look, as always, thank you so much for sharing the lunchtime session with me and my colleagues in the local enterprise office. We have a super team working really hard there this week during Enterprise Week. I'd encourage all the participants today to review the website and look at the programming for the remainder of the week. As I say, we will be taking expressions of interest for your own program, and indeed to thank Nancy from the Entrepreneur Academy for holding the platform. But Blaise, one last comment before we log out there.
I would say that for the majority of the people around the table here, you should go home from this today, because you need to take something worthwhile from it and identify 2 or 3 issues of variables within your business model, right? And set a target for yourself to improve under each of those 2 or 3 items by a factor of 5%. If you could pick out, say, 5 variables within your business and set in motion an action plan to improve each of those 5 variables by a factor of 3 to 5%. Look at what impact that would have in your bottom line going forward. Now, there will be a minority of you around the table that may not just be enough. You might need to redefine your business going forward. And if that's the case, there's help out there for that as well, you know. But congratulate everybody in getting this far. I wasn't trying to get at anybody this morning, today. I might have come across as being kind of pushing it, but I was doing that very designedly because I do think we need to push ourselves and to kind of reawaken the possibility that there is life beyond this cycle. And we need to utilize the time that's available to us now in order to be fitter to play the game, the commercial game that needs to be played into the future. And I wish you all the best of luck. I'm sure our paths will cross along the way in different ways or whatever. And, you know, keep in touch with the Leo office and Jackie and her team there, because there's a lot of help, lads. But at the end of the day, you have to walk across that line.
On that final and really valuable note, thank you for your generosity, not only of your expertise, Blaise, but your warmth and really good intent for the business of County Kildare. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Please mind yourselves.